The funeral of George Floyd has been held in his hometown of Houston in Texas, and the service was dominated by calls for reform. Mr. Floyd's death at the hands of a white policeman has galvanized a global movement against racism and police brutality.
Hundreds bid farewell to George Floyd as he was laid to rest more than 2 weeks after his shocking death sparked protests around the world. Family, friends, politicians, activists, and even celebrities packed this church to honor the man many called a gentle giant.
Everybody gonna remember him around the world. He's gonna change the world.
Laws were already put in place for the African American system to fail. And these laws need to be changed. No more hate crimes, please. Someone said, make America great again. But when has America ever been great?
Across the country, millions more watched as the service was broadcast live on television. Civil rights activist Reverend Al Sharpton delivered the main eulogy, drawing attention to the victims of police brutality that came before him.
The mother of Trayvon Martin, will you stand? The mother of Eric Garner, will you stand?
And then, hundreds lined the streets as a horse-drawn carriage took him to his final resting place by his mother's grave. George Floyd died on May 25th as a white police officer pressed a knee into his neck for almost 9 minutes. His death has ignited the biggest protest movement in the U.S. in decades. From coast to coast, tens of thousands took to the streets, rallying against racism and the mistreatment of minorities by law enforcement. And there have been concrete results. Minneapolis, where Floyd was killed, has pledged to dismantle and rebuild its police department. New York lawmakers have approved a large package of bills targeting police misconduct, while states across the U.S. will ban officers from using chokeholds and reconsider the use of tear gas against protesters.
Nick Harper joins us live from Washington for more on this story. Nick, pressure is mounting on U.S. officials to implement police reforms, and Congress, we understand, will begin some action shortly?
Yeah, that's right, Steve. Pressure certainly mounting. It's the main thing that protesters want. They want to see radical changes within police forces right across the country. As we heard in that report there have already begun to be changes in certain cities like Minneapolis and New York City, but protesters want all of this put into law. So a little bit later, in just over an hour's time, the House Judiciary Committee will start a hearing in which they will look specifically at the topic of police brutality. George Floyd's brother will be testifying, as will the family's lawyer, and they will be looking at how meaningful changes can be made. All of this will be put into a potential bill, a law proposal change that would be voted on probably in the middle of next week. Some of the things potentially up for discussion, and they're still hashing out the details, could be banning chokeholds in every single police force across the United States, and also stopping officers from not knocking at a door before they enter on a drug search warrant. Breonna Taylor was a woman who was killed a few months ago when police entered her apartment. She was sleeping at the time they opened fire and she died. So protesters are saying that we're seeing a number of deaths across the country, not just George Floyd, but as a result of police brutality, and therefore they want some serious changes to be put in nationwide.
Well, Nick, the protests also having an impact on businesses there as well. Tell us about that.
That's right, Glenda. I think we're really seeing a moment when businesses, there is a cultural shift within many companies. They are re-examining how they're doing business and re-examining the type of image that they're showing to the world. So, for example, Adidas has just announced that they will be changing their hiring policy. From now on, 30% of all new hires will come from minority communities, specifically from Black or Hispanic Latinx communities. They want to show that they're much more representative representative in the sales force that they have. And we've also heard from HBO Max, the streaming service here in the United States. They say that they are pulling the famous classic movie Gone with the Wind from their service. The 1939 movie has long been criticised for its portrayal of slavery, and HBO are taking this moment to re-examine what they have to offer on their streaming service, and quite simply saying that what has been acceptable in the past is no longer acceptable. And I think we're going to see this cultural, this business shift as many more companies begin to re-examine the type of image that they're showing to the rest of the world.
Oh, thanks for that. Nick Harper speaking to us from Washington, D.C.